welcome to Stand Up and Scream. Today I have some very special guests. They're members of the Sons of the Desert. We have Bob Duncan and John Duff. And that we are going to get a little piece of history today, a little cinematic history. We're going to be talking about Laurel and Hardy. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Good.
Thank you for
Very
coming.
good.
Very well, thank you.
Tell us how you got interested in these guys right here.
Maybe first thing we ought to do is say who's who.
Okay.
The skinny guy is Stan Laurel. His character was basically blissfully and eternally dim. And the chunky guy was Oliver Hardy. He always thought he was smarter than Stan, but he really wasn't. And that is really the key to these two characters.
And you guys have been fans of their work for quite a while, huh?
Since I was a kid.
Yeah, me too. I used to get up Saturday mornings and watch them on TV. And as a kid, I made a promise to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to have a library of their films. I never grew up, but I went and got the library anyway.
Right on. So I met you guys at the Sons of the Desert meeting, and why don't you explain what the Sons of the Desert are?
Sons of the Desert is basically a group that was founded back in the early 60s in New York. It was essentially, initially, a men's night out kind of thing. Boys got together, had a few cocktails, watched the movies, had a great time, and worried about real life later on. Anyhow, the group expanded from there, went around the world. Today there's over 200 chapters.
All throughout the world?
All throughout the world. They're referred to as tents in the vernacular. And we have two very active tents here in the Los Angeles area. Early to Bed tent, which meets in Temple City. Way Out West, which is the senior group, which meets over in North Hollywood.
I guess the one I went to was the Early to Bed.
Right.
I had a fantastic time, I've got to tell you. You showed four films, and they were great, and it was really a great time.
The whole key here is these films were never intended to be nothing more than a way to make people laugh. And that's kind of how we approach it when we do the film show. We try to keep it light, keep it simple. Their
films are pretty short, aren't they?
For the most part, and the whole idea is there's no real plot to these things. You just simply, something happens, there's a reaction, and it just kind of builds from there. A lot of it was improvised on the spot. Stan Laurel was usually the brains behind those improvisations. And I think that's why the films hold up so well today. They weren't really topical. They weren't a lot of period humor of what was popular in that era. So you can watch these films today, they're just as funny as they were 80 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
tell us a little bit about the men behind the movies. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Stan, I guess, was from England, and he worked with the Fred Carnot troupe, as a comedian. And Charlie,
I don't know what Fred Carnot troupe is.
It was like a traveling British,
like the English version of vaudeville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he came over to this country, I think, the first time around 1910. Mm-hmm. Ollie is from Harlem, Georgia, and he grew up there, and I think he worked in theaters, and then he saw on film, well, I could do that. And he started working, in comedies, silent comedies on his own too, usually playing like a villain or a heavy, as they would call him back then. And then somehow they round up together at the Hal Roach Studios.
So they didn't really kind of have that magic on film until they collaborated, right?
No, well, they were kind of in several films together, and someone got the idea, well, these could be a team.
It was Leo McCarey, the director, who saw these two working together in different films at the Roach Studio. He went to Hal Roach, said, these two work pretty well together. We ought to look into teaming these guys. Hal Roach had been looking for a team anyway. So in 1927, they were teamed up.
Did they have teams already existing at that time?
Not really.
Abbott and Costello?
Oh, they were much later.
Oh, they were?
Yeah. You go back in some of the early silent films, and you see variations of teams in a lot of these things. The tall guy and the short guy, the fat guy, the skinny guy, whatever. So there were always teams to a certain extent. But these guys kind of refined the whole idea. Silent film, a lot of the comedies were just frantic. I mean, they're just, how much can you cram into a 15, 20-minute film? These guys took the idea and slowed it down and zeroed in on one gag or one idea, and then just let it build from there. Now we could run that bit.
Okay, well, so you have a little silent bit, and this is from what?
This is from Big Business, an extremely popular film from 1928, I believe it was.
Can we show that now?
And you'll see the whole idea here is a very simple little miscommunication leads to a result, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. And you can see that in this film.
Okay, and that was, he wrote that?
I think a lot of it was improvised on the spot. There was a plot outline in terms of how you, okay, we're going to be selling Christmas trees. Okay, now what can we do with that? And
so we're going to watch a little bit of
you
them
can see what
selling
happened,
Christmas
yeah.
trees. Let's check that out.
He appeared in like 33 Laurel and Hardy films as their antagonist. Now you see here a very little simple little thing right here. Now they ring the doorbell. Phillison comes out again. Okay, now we'll leave. No, we won't leave. Ring the bell again. Okay. Okay, how many variations of a gag can we get here? Now watch. So it just builds and builds, the simplest little thing. And this was the foundation of so many of their films. So Stan has an idea here.
They always have a business idea, don't they?
Right. Back to the door. Now watch Stan as he turns and yells. He yelled Babe, which was Hardy's nickname.
Uh-huh.
And you can see him mouth it as he's yelling out to Hardy. So up comes the tree again. And here comes Finn, and he's not about to take a tree.
Now the fun starts.
So the idea here is action begets reaction begets reaction. Now the boys are frustrated, so how are they going to react? So now it's Finn's turn.
Did you just cut his hair?
Yeah, what's left of it.
What there wasn't. The idea here is that you do unto the other person, and then you wait while they react. You give them a chance to react. And here goes the watch. And so the film just continues to build and build and build. We can wind this down now.
Fantastic.
But eventually, they virtually demolish the house. Finn demolishes their car. The whole world goes absolutely crazy. And a simple little misunderstanding leads to this incredible mess.
Conundrum, huh?
Yeah.
And believe it or not, that house is still standing today.
That house is in Hollywood.
In Cheviot Hills, yeah.
Hal Roach for years liked to tell the story that when his film crew went out, they filmed it, they demolished the house, they finished their filming, and as they're going to leave, they realized they were on the wrong block. They had just demolished the wrong house. Well, it's a great story, but it's a myth. They had the right house. The house belonged to a Road Studio employee who'd
So
send
they
his
really
wife
did
away.
demolish the house?
Oh yeah.
Well, they damned it. They broke the windows. They broke the front door. They tore up the front lawn, dug up all the trees. It was a pretty
The
big
guy,
mess.
the owner had sent his wife away for a couple of weeks. This was like 2 weeks before Christmas that they filmed this. So I'm sure she had a real surprise when she got home, saw the condition of her house.
LV,